The FBI raid on John Bolton's home and office Friday was a direct strike on the modern British financial empire. John Bolton is not just the war hawk we all know. He is the City of London's war hawk in their plot to run the United States through global military and financial alliances. The media wants you to think this was about a book, Trump's Revenge, or Trump trying to silence a big critic of Trump's opening to Russia. It was none of that. The FBI's raid on Bolton, who was a central player in the first impeachment, signals a deeper fight, the unraveling of the British-style rules-based order that kept America paying for wars while others pulled the strings for the last 80 years. I'm Barbara Boyd, and I've investigated Bolton's role in the seditious coup against President Trump since 2018. Today, I'm going to first reveal John Bolton's role in the attempt to impeach President Trump in 2019. Then I'm going to talk about Bolton's deep links to the City of London, their financial oligarchs, and the real battle for peace in Ukraine. Finally, I'm going to sum up some developments in President Trump's continuing obliteration of the British rules-based order during the past week. If you find these videos educational and engaging, please like and subscribe to our channel. It helps increase our reach on YouTube. President Trump responded to the Bolton raid by wearing his "Trump was right about everything" hat all day. Here he is in the afternoon wearing that hat and talking about Putin and Russia. Even Fox News shot down the media crap about Bolton's book or Trump's Revenge. They said secret CIA intelligence given to the FBI by John Radcliffe was the basis for the search warrant. Other reports say that Bolton was trafficking classified intelligence for pay. But if you join John Bolton, who says Dick Cheney is his mentor and soulmate, with the CIA's Gina Haspel and Bolton's Russia expert at the National Security Council, Fiona Hill, you discover the three key internal White House conspirators in Trump's first impeachment. Remember, Ukrainegate happened in July of 2019, right after the Mueller special counsel investigation went down in flames and Trump had begun to conduct his own foreign policy. He questioned U.S. military support for Ukraine and questioned Joe Biden's corrupt dealings there. As his hat says, Trump was right about both. The British rules-based world order depends on alliances in which the United States bears all the costs and acts for imperial interests, not our own. Our presidents are supposed to be obedient and docile. In a 2018 British House of Lords report discussing what to do about Trump, the Lords said they had been able to control Trump by surrounding him with advisors they controlled and by their control of much of our media. Here's the money quote from that report. Dr. Corey Shockey, Deputy Director General of the International Institute for Strategic Studies, IIS as they say in British parlance, noted two constraints on British Trump's hostile approach to alliances. First, he has been, quote, dragged kicking and screaming by his cabinet to behave slightly better. Second, he was, quote, hemmed in by public attitudes. The American public, on the whole, supported traditional U.S. alliances. Just look at this picture. It's the cabinet snakes the British were talking about. DNI Dan Coates, CIA Chief Gina Haspel, and National Security Advisor John Bolton. Gina Haspel coordinated London's direct intelligence campaign against the Trump campaign for president from her CIA liaison post in London in 2015 to 2016. She then came home to head the CIA. Both the so-called whistleblowers who claimed that Trump illegally tried to get Zelensky to find dirt on Joe Biden were brought to the White House by Haspel and Bolton. Then there's Bolton's NSC Russia expert, Fiona Hill. She was also a critical impeachment witness, but Hill also had a big role in starting Russiagate. She was best buddies with Christopher Steele and the London intelligence crowd who backed Steele's phony Trump dossier, the key to all of Russiagate. The guy who made up the contents of Steele's dossier used to work for Fiona Hill, and Hill is now a defense advisor to Her Majesty's British government. Gina Haspel played the key role in covering up the fact that Russiagate, the Mueller special counsel investigation, all of it was a hoax. the biggest scandal in all of U.S. history. Now, here's the kicker. John Bolton is not just the crazy warmonger we all came to know. He has been a longtime member of something called the Roost Group, a private equity firm operating out of New York and London. The founders of that group are big-time former Lazard Frères bankers. What is Lazard Frères, you might ask? Well, they are and were major imperial bankers for both the British and French empires, dating back to the 1860s, right below the Bank of England in the scale of their crimes. They played a big role in creating both Hitler and Mussolini. You get a sniff of what's involved by just looking at their City of London webpage. The British Lords now have a new investigation of what to do about Trump, which Susan told you about in her viral Wednesday video. They admit now that Donald Trump and the American people have blown apart their 80-year control of the United States. Charles Kupchan, a national security advisor for Clinton and Obama, testified in this new Lords investigation that both the Ukraine war and Joe Biden's election were, get this, an attempt to force the United States back into the imperial fold after Trump's first administration. Here's that shocking and criminal admission. That effort, referring to Trump's America First foreign policy, was, to some extent, put in abeyance by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which put the United States back in internationalist, i.e. globalist, mode. And the Biden administration was very much committed to the defense of the liberal rules-based order. But it did not go very well, particularly among heartland Americans. And now we have a second Trump turn. Now, you won't find what I just told you about Bolton and the Brits' confession about the reasons for the Ukraine war anywhere but on Promethean Action. If you appreciate the focus on the real backstory rather than the hype or speculation, go to Promethean Action now and subscribe to our newsletter. Now, after their meeting at the White House on Monday, the Brits and the Europeans spent all last week trying to sabotage peace in Ukraine. They had a fantasy that Trump had adopted their plan to continue the war by putting U.S. troops on the ground as a security guarantee, since Europe doesn't have the troops, the money, or the equipment to fight any real war. DNI Tulsi Gabbard had also wisely blocked them from seeing the internal deliberations within the White House by banning any foreign access to documents or assessments about the peace talks. Trump is intent on ending the killing and supports no plan to continue the war. That was clear by Friday, with Politico reporting the upshot of all of the meetings about post-peace Ukraine security guarantees. They said Europe will have to provide whatever minimal security guarantees they can muster for Ukraine after a peace agreement. So we are at a moment which is simultaneously promising and very dangerous. This week's Justice Department revelations about James Comey illegally leaking classified information, the continuing purge of deep state agents in Washington by Tulsi Gabbard and others, and the Bolton raid make clear that a huge criminal seditious conspiracy case is being built, with all of the agencies of the new Trump security state participating in the prosecution. This week, President Trump simultaneously forced Europe to come to terms with the fact that the Ukraine war is unwinnable, despite their murderous fantasies about somehow using it to return to the failed order of the last 80 years. They're slowly realizing that if they have to be the security guarantors, there aren't a lot of Europeans ready to sign up for their so-called coalition of the willing. That's a rational result. Europe's populations don't plan to join a suicide march. An apparent Russian hack of the Ukrainian Defense Agency revealed this week that 1.7 million Ukrainians are recorded there as having been killed or gone missing in this awful war. While that figure seems too large to me, there is no question that Ukrainian losses of this magnitude have indeed happened. Those like John Bolton, who have fed this no-win war, and so many others, and who conspired to overthrow an American president, thus reveal themselves to be akin to criminal savages functioning under a mask of so-called respectability. For these people, justice cannot come soon enough. So the mask is coming off because Donald Trump, Tulsi Gabbard, a different FBI and CIA are ripping it off. The FBI raid on John Bolton isn't just about one man. It's about dismantling an 80-year-old stranglehold on American sovereignty. But cornered empires don't surrender quietly. They double down. They lash out. They try to drag us into their final wars. That's why your voice matters so much now more than ever. Subscribe to Promethean Actions. Share this truth, because the next months will determine whether America breaks free or gets pulled back into the imperial web that's been bleeding us dry ever since World War II. The choice is ours. The time is now. I'll see you again on Monday.
Thanks for watching. Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at prometheanaction.com.